Hi, this is Chilton Webb. I'm going to show you how I use Conjure to write software. In this case, I start off with my default desktop, and I had an idea, so I wrote down a little note. Hey, this would be a cool app. So then I create a new desktop, and I just throw out some ideas out there. I added Xcode to my desktop. It's up there in the Programs menu for me, because it's already an open app. And then I took my list, and I drag and drop all of the text items out of it and delete the original list. And then I cluster that and use the rectangle cluster feature to create a neat little organized, tidy section there I can kind of whip through. Then I set it to use the color palette to basically change the color of each of these things depending on whether I think they're important or unimportant. And I create a new cluster with the less important things, and I label that stuff I'll do later. And I remove those from the original cluster. So now my main cluster has 4 things in it, and I can pop those open and close as I need to. And now it occurs to me I need to design an interface. So I'm going to use the boxes and the text features in Conjure to create this kind of mock little interface to help me decide kind of roughly what I'd like it to do. And I'm pretty happy with that, so then I go into Xcode and spend a few minutes. Now obviously this is extremely accelerated here. I spend a few minutes adding some stuff together, and I take that design and I move it over to the side so I can watch what I'm doing in Interface Builder at the same time that I see my original prototype over there on the side. So I can still see the side, you know, the prototype over on the side, and I have my design here in Interface Builder, and I'm kind of whipping through this pretty quickly. I apologize for the speed issue here. Basically, some things take me very little time and some things take a long time, and in this case it takes me longer to build this in Interface Builder than it does obviously in Conjure. But now I have my basic look, and I drop it back into Conjure and I make some notes about exactly what I want each of these parts of the interface to do. And the reason is because I want to be able to keep all these notes along with my original notes so that I don't stray too far from the course for what I wanted the product to originally do. Otherwise it becomes one of those feature-itis kind of things, and I'll end up adding features for months. So I go through, I dump those into a cluster so the images get out of the way, and then I wrote a little bit of code in Conjure, and I basically copy and paste it into Xcode. And here we go, we're doing some stuff here. Basically, at this point, it occurs to me, though, that there was this thing that I need this app to do that I think I've done before. In fact, I know I've done before. It was just months ago, but I did it in Conjure, and not only did I do it in Conjure, but I made notes about how it all works. So what I'm going to do in a second is I hop back into Conjure in a second when I have this realization, and I do a search for it, and you'll see that very briefly, and all of a sudden once I've done my search, here it is. I searched for it, screenshot, found it. Oh yeah, here it is. I've got 2 files. They're already done. They're complex as hell, but they include everything that I need in this app. And I also included some sample code originally when I wrote this, and I drew this little diagram explaining how it should all be laid out. So I copy and paste this into my app, and all of a sudden I have several months worth of work condensed down into basically 2 files and a little drawing. Conjure helped me instantly remember how all of this worked, and I really wouldn't have remembered this if I had had to read through the header files or read through the source code itself or read even my comments. The combination of visual chart plus the notes I had made there in Conjure plus the sample code is just kind of too easy to add this feature in. So I'm adding this into the app itself. But in a second, I'm actually going to get a phone call from my wife reminding me to call my dad, who is in a different town right now, and I need to find out some information about that. So again, this is kind of one of those big interruption things that normally really would throw me for a loop. But since I'm using Conjure, what's going to happen is as soon as I get that call, I'll hop into Conjure, make a new desktop, throw all the details into that, and then instantly get back into what I was doing before. You'll see that in just a second. Here I am testing the app right here, and I get the phone call sometime around here. And so I make a new note, I make a new desktop, I make some notes here. I'm going to hop into Safari, type in the location he's currently at in Google Maps, drag it off onto the Conjure desktop, throw it there in a little note. Then I go back to my desktop overview, I scroll down to where I just was, get right back on it. I'm able to get right back into testing. I don't have to remember and think about where all the files were or anything like that. They're all right there on the desktop. And the note to my dad is safely tucked away somewhere else for me to look at in a few minutes. So I go through this now, and basically this is how I'm able to keep on task when I'm working on any particular project, no matter how complex it is, and easily jump from complex task to task, and then get back to one task cleanly from another one. And you see, I can get right back into testing. Notes told me where I left off and everything else. It's a really clean, easy way to use Conjure to simplify things, no matter how complex they are.